We're just making sure that we have audio here. We're good. I'm getting the thumbs up. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I can say good afternoon even to our West Coast clients and visitors. I'm excited because we have hit a new high for the number of participants that are joining these webinars. So I think it's being well received. I think people are getting good information out of it. I know that we're enjoying putting these together and building an inventory of some of the more common questions that clients want to hear about. So it's exciting for us as well. A couple of housekeeping line items. If you do have any questions on your GoToMeeting control panel, you can just click on the questions tab and submit your questions anytime throughout the presentation. I have to give a lot of kudos to my colleague Amanda, who's helped put together everything that you see here, as well as the white paper, which is my next topic. Each time we do these monthly campaigns, one of the things that we try to do is, or have been doing, is also write a white paper to accompany it. Normally they're about anywhere from 4 to 10 pages. It depends on the complexity of the subject that we're discussing. But you don't really need to take notes during these webinars. You can just download the white paper, which can be found right on our website. In fact, while we're talking about it, if you're on our website right here, if you go to Education and White Papers, there's a white paper archive, and you can see identity theft, and you can just download the form right there. So let's discuss first, what is identity theft? Make sure that we're all working with the same definition. It's really when somebody wrongfully obtains your personal information and they use that without your permission. And they usually do this for their own personal gain. And it's usually an economic gain for them. Bear with me here because I'm going to give you a couple of stats, and I know stats can be a little boring over time, so I promise I won't give you too many. But I think these are important to set the stage, or at least instill a little bit of fear in all of us that this can happen to us. In 2017, the identity fraud study released by the Javelin Strategy and Research Group found that $16 billion was stolen from 15.4 million U.S. consumers in 2016. Compare this with 15.3 billion and 13.1 million victims 1 year earlier. So just the cliff notes, it's increased, the number of victims have increased by 16% in the last 12 months. At this point, they're projecting that 1 out of 20 individuals is going to become a victim in 2017. That number has steadily been increasing over time. There is absolutely no way that we can entirely insulate ourselves from this risk. However, there are a handful of best practices that we each should at least be aware of and pay attention to, because it really can be the difference maker of whether our identity is stolen or not. I'm going to discuss the following line items that you can hopefully see on your screen: phone calls, emails, password management, mailboxes, protecting the identity of your child, ATM machines, and then finally I'm going to end it with what should you do if you do become a victim of identity theft. I would say that the number has been climbing, but I would venture a guess that we have probably 5 families per year that notify us about some form of identity theft. And it ranges from somebody used their Social Security when they were getting ready to file their taxes. They found that somebody had already filed their taxes under their Social Security, from somebody lost their credit card, and then we also get probably once every quarter an email from somebody claiming to one of our clients, or they're claiming to be one of our clients, claiming to be overseas and they're stuck and they need money, and unfortunately they don't have any other credit cards, and their phone is conveniently not working. So they want us to go to Western Union and wire money to them. Now, obviously, we don't process that stuff. All of that is flagged within our office, and then we reach out to the client whose email was most likely hacked, just to see what's going on. Now, again, these are the issues or the areas that we're going to discuss today. There are 2 other major areas: in the medical field, identity theft, and in the criminal justice field. I wanted to keep this campaign and the white paper relatively concise, so I chose to exclude those two, but they are two other areas that there's a lot of problems with identity theft. I'm going to focus right now on phone calls. There's two trending scams that are taking place and have been taking place now for a couple of years, but they are the current leader in the phone call scamming space. The first is when somebody calls your home and they pretend that they are calling from your credit card company, and they report that there's some sort of problem with your credit card that requires re-authentication. And conveniently, to re-authenticate it, you can do that right over your phone. All you have to do is go get your credit card and punch in the numbers and punch in your expiration date and maybe that 3-number code. The problem is that's not really your credit card company, and all they're doing is stealing your credit card information. I think there's, well, I'll switch to the second threat that we've seen, and then I'll give you some tips that we've learned along the way, although you can actually see some of them right here. The second one is you've won a trip. So people are being called and told them that they won something. In this example, I said a free trip to the Caribbean. In most of these scams, what they require is that you make some form of processing payment. So they'll tell you that you won, and in order to collect your prize, we need you to give us your credit card so we can run a charge of whatever it is, $50, $100 processing fee, which sounds like no big deal when they're giving you such a wonderful prize. However, it's not really a prize. They're just trying to get you to enter your credit card information. The tips here, first of all, is don't give anybody information when they call you. Always either just politely hang up, or not hang up, but politely tell them that you don't have time right now, and that you need to call them back at another time. That would give you time to validate and check, is this a legitimate offer? Is this really a problem that I need to resolve with my credit card company? But most important, you should always call them. Never give personal information to somebody that calls you. We used to be able to rely on our caller ID systems, but that's no longer true because the hackers have actually figured out a way to manipulate the feed that we get when a call comes in. So the caller ID, they can now control and say that they're calling from whoever they want. They can make it look like that number is even legitimate. So they've figured out all of these areas. So I think one of the best takeaways is just do not give anybody any information when they call you. Hang up, call them back, and if it's legitimate, then and only then would I consider giving them any personal information. The other area that I want to focus on is emails. So emails is a big one. We always have meetings around here to see if we can identify any kind of identity threats. We obviously have the personal information for a lot of families that we need to keep secure, and we have a lot of meetings internally to make sure that we do that. As I mentioned, we get those emails on a regular basis claiming that clients are out of the country and need money. So one of the problems that we're seeing is a concept known as keystroke logging. Keystroke logging is in the form of a malware, and the way that it gets onto your computer is they usually send you an email that has a link in the email, and they want you to press on that link. And what that does is that gives them the ability to download onto your computer just by clicking that link a malware onto your system that what it does is it records your keystrokes. Now, when I first heard this, I thought that this was just something in the future that would actually take place. When I did some more research on it, I've actually found out that it's been around since the 80s. A lot of IT teams or management would use this to problem solve issues that they were having with their computer systems, so they needed to be able to record what their colleagues or employees were typing on their computer to troubleshoot an issue. But you can see that they've actually manipulated this, so now it's in the hands of the wrong people, and what they're doing is they're recording anytime you type in your password or your credit card to purchase something. All it does is it stores that, and they're able to upload it at will to be able to get that information. So the links are kind of tricky. I can tell you just about 3 weeks ago, as I was preparing for this presentation, I happened to get an email from Apple, and Apple told me that I recently logged in to a computer under my Apple ID from a computer in Bangladesh. And I thought to myself, well, that doesn't sound good. And conveniently at the bottom of the email it asked if I didn't recognize this computer that I should click below. And now I was on heightened awareness just because I'm preparing this presentation on identity theft. So I thought, well, I better not click on the link. What if that's been hacked? So I just went right into my Apple ID and changed my password. What was interesting is they sent me a confirmation right after I changed the password, and I did notice that there were discrepancies in the two emails. The email that I received about the notification of a computer login in Bangladesh and the email that I received when I changed my password. The emails were slightly different. Even though they had the emblem of Apple on them and they looked like Apple emails, the formatting was different, which I thought was strange. Now, there's no guarantee that it was somebody trying to download malware onto our systems, and we do have software on our system that's supposed to pick up on those things to identify those and flag them, but it is a growing problem. So remember, if you see links, you got to be very careful in your emails. I would even stress that even if it's a family member sending you a quick note that says, hey, I just wanted you to check out this site, you should actually contact them and just make sure that it's legitimate. I don't open anything that's a short email from any of my friends that just say, check this out, or I wanted you to see this. There's just too much headaches that could come along with downloading something that would take over your computer. Make sure that you're running updated antivirus and malware software on all of your electronic devices, which includes smartphones. Smartphones have an edge because of when we really started to adapt and use cell phones, that they were actually created with protection in mind or security in mind. You know, when I even started doing this research, I wasn't sure if my Samsung phone had encryption on it, and so I did some searching, and I found out that my cell phone automatically has my data in the phone encrypted. So that's just the point. The cell phones are coming with that, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to figure out ways to download viruses or malware to track what we're typing on our phone. So I also use an antivirus and malware software on my phone as well. I use Norton Mobile. It's a free software. There are ones that you can pay for as well, but I found that this one works well, and it does do the regular scan, so I can see if there's any problems on my smartphone. I think most of us know that we're supposed to have this software on our computers. You need to have it on every computer, any tablets that you have. Again, some of these subscriptions you can actually get so that you can put it on more than one device so that you're not having to pay multiple times. But it is important that you have it. Those people that are using Apple or desktops with Microsoft, it's important that you keep your operating system current. What that means is, you know, every so often your computer will look to do an operating system update. And I don't know if it happens maybe monthly, maybe every other month. But it's important that you do that, because many times what they're doing is they're including patches that will protect your computer from new scams or viruses that are out there. Many of us, or I think most of us, are familiar with the virus that spread through ransomware called WannaCry. You know, the name is probably very appropriate. But this spread throughout the world. This was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what it did was it focused on computers that were running older operating systems. If you've been keeping your system current, you're finding that we are finding that people did not have problems. What they did was they again downloaded some ransomware that encrypted all of your files. And so you couldn't get into your own files. And what they're doing is, for a fee, they're willing to give you the key so that you can unlock your files. A workaround for that is everybody should be backing up their systems, their computer systems, their home systems, their work systems. I have my cell phone. Every photo, every file that's created is automatically backed up personally, and then as well as we do this at the office. I think it's every 20 minutes at the office our systems are backed up, or certain new additions or adjustments are backed up every so often. It's important. We all hear the horror stories of computers crashing and losing all your data. Nowadays, with all of our photos in our computers or our cell phones, it's important to back that stuff up. And I like using the cloud. Some people might want to use a portable backup drive. All of that stuff's fine. Just make sure that you have a backup. Two popular online backup services. The first is Carbonite. I used Carbonite for some time. I actually switched to Dropbox. This is personally. I just liked it better, and I like the ability to share with certain people. So Dropbox has a service. Again, you can have multiple tablets, computers, laptops, cell phones. So you can have all of those connected to one account through a Carbonite or a Dropbox, and all your data is backed up. This way, if heaven forbid something like this WannaCry were to download again onto your computer, you have a backup of all your files. So even if they encrypted those files on your computer, you have a backup for them. Another one, and this is important, and we still see this probably every other week, so this is pretty common. I think there's growing awareness, hence presentations like this. People should not be sending personal information through email. We still get a lot of statements that have account numbers that people email to us. We've even had people include their social security number in the bodies of emails or on tax documents that they attach. For our clients, we've set up vaults for each client that they can securely upload these documents to. It's a secure portal that we can communicate through. There's a couple of other options. You can purchase different PDF softwares. We use Nitro here in the office. Adobe also has a version, although it's pretty pricey, where you can password protect documents. The free version of most PDF softwares do not offer the ability to password protect any documents that you want to send. So again, if you don't want to pay for that, that's okay. We have a tool that you can upload documents to, but if you don't have access or you're sharing information with someone else, you might want to make sure that you're using something like a Dropbox or some kind of encryption software to make sure that people cannot gain access to the information that you send through email. Email is not secure unless you make it secure, and there are softwares that will do that. Right out of the gate, by default, most email providers are not sending encrypted, secure emails. Everybody remember the Target data breach in 2013 when they stole a whole bunch of debit cards and credit cards. I was shocked when I heard this, but that scam actually happened or started not with Target directly. It actually happened through an employee of a vendor that Target uses for their HVAC and air conditioning systems. This vendor had been given access to Target's network so they could monitor the HVAC systems, and they can do it remotely so that they can contact Target if there were a problem. Well, some hacker sent an email to an employee at the vendor's office. They opened the link, and what it did was it gave them access to their data, and they were able to find out the password that this vendor was using to get into Target's network. It's not uncommon for groups like Target to allow other vendors to get onto their system to service them, or it's an IT team that needs access to their network. However, it is pretty rare to have access when a vendor gets into your system to everything, and that's where Target really got burned, because they didn't partition their network so that there were sections of their network that were not accessible to vendors. So what happened was, when this hacker gained access through the vendor to Target's network, they were actually able to see all of the transactions and purchases that had happened at Target. And this is how they got a hold of everybody's debit card and credit card. It happens, and sometimes it's not even our doing, it's somebody else's doing. So we need to pay close attention to this. I've got, oh, bear with me. I've got a poll I want to try. This is the first time that I'm trying it, so bear with me. Hopefully you can see this if I did it right. So what is the most popular password? We're going to talk about password management. What is the most popular password used today? Go ahead right on your computer. You should be able to just go ahead and enter the answer. And I'll close the poll in a couple of seconds. I still see that there's answers coming in. And I'm going to close it right now. So the answer that everybody chose, well, we got a split. 44% of people thought that the word password was the most popular password today. 44% of people thought the password 123 was the most popular password, and 11% of people thought your pet's name was the most popular password. The answer is actually password, believe it or not. It's kind of scary. You guys obviously thought this. But password obviously is not a very good password to be using. I think it speaks to, you know, how serious some people are taking this. We probably are thinking that we're not going to get burned on this. Those people that are using password, maybe they're not doing it for, you know, like maybe they're doing it on a read-only site. Maybe it isn't their bank account. Maybe they have more secure passwords for that. I would venture a guess that some don't, and that they're really using something like password. You're playing with fire, I think, at that point. Convenience does come at a price. Nowadays, you really need to have passwords that you cannot remember. I know that sounds weird because if you can't remember it, then how the heck are you going to get into the sites when you need it? The cool thing is that they do have password management tools nowadays that are available. I use an app called Dashlane. You can do a Google search for password management systems. There's a handful of them. I've noticed that even antivirus and malware software solutions, they actually have a password management tool. I've seen some clients that use Excel spreadsheets. I've got some clients that do it in a little black book. I mean, all of these are okay as long as they're secure. The reason that I do like the Dashlane is because there's a couple of reasons. One, I have my phone with me always, so I have the ability to click on the Dashlane. It will either recognize a master password, and it also has a backup of entering digits into it to be able to get into the system. Once I'm in that system, all of my passwords are in there. And what is cool is that I've grown accustomed to just clicking generate a secure password for me, and what they'll do is they'll automatically generate a password for you that's got uppercase, lowercase, a symbol, and a number, and you can tell it how many characters it needs to be. And then you just tell it that's the one I'm going to use, and it stores it in your system. If you're logging into that site through your phone, you can just copy that password and paste it right in. Otherwise, you just have to open up your phone, enter that master password, so you do still have to remember one password. But then all of a sudden, if you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 different passwords, I have 52 passwords. There's no way that somebody can remember that and do that without repeating it among multiple sites, which is dangerous. And there's no way that we could remember secure passwords that is legitimately secure. So it's something to consider using some sort of password management tool. The other thing that I like, and I do pay for Dashlane, there's a free version and then there's a paid for, and I choose to pay for this one because I also wonder what would happen if I passed away. What about all those passwords? If they're under a master ID, will my spouse know what that is? What if I've changed that? So I actually have paid for their tool, and what that allows you to do is to share that with somebody else. So my wife also enters her secure passwords into this software as well, so we can share that. So if something happens to me, she has access to all of my passwords, and vice versa. If something were to happen to her, I have access to all of her passwords. I think I said this, each site should have a different password. Do not repeat them. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. Oh yeah, the last one in this section. When available, turn on two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is fairly new to me. I mean, I heard about it maybe a year ago. Those in the IT field probably are familiar with this or have known about it for longer than that. But what it does is, and I think this is genius, and I actually submitted a suggestion to TD Ameritrade that I think they should roll this out not only for clients but also for advisors when we log on. What it does is you have your regular password to go into a site, so you go ahead and enter that, and what it does is it automatically sends you a text. Some groups will send you an email as well, but I think text works a little bit better. It's faster, and again, for most people, they have their cell phone right there with them. So what that ensures is that if somebody is in Bangladesh, they have to not only know my password to that website, but they also have to figure out a way to hack into my phone system to get my text messages. It's probably all possible. We know that these things, hackers are smart. They're figuring out ways to do all these things. But I think this is a good step. At least those people with your cell phone or the ability to get your text messages would be the only ones that can log into that site. And those text message passwords that they give you, they're usually 6 digits long, and they only last for about 10 minutes. So I think that that's actually a really good area that the industry is heading. For those that use e-money, it's later on next month. I want to say it's around June 13th. E-money is, I think it's a requirement. They're rolling out two-factor authentication. They've already done it when we log in as advisors to get in to be able to view all of our clients' financial information, but they're now doing it, or soon going to be rolling that out sometime in June on your own client login in your vault, so that you'll be required to enter your password and then get some second form of ID, usually text messaging. The next section that I want to go over is mailboxes. Believe it or not, 53% of identity theft still takes place by those people that are physically stealing information from you. The number one that we're seeing is credit card offers. I don't know about you, but I get a ton of credit card offers all the time. When I bought this firm, I ended up getting a whole bunch of business credit card offers to my house. So something goes through whenever you apply for credit that triggers that an alert or some kind of report that people are purchasing to be able to find out who's interested in getting credit, whether that's a mortgage, whether it's a credit card, whether that's a line of credit, whether that's a car loan. Something's triggered, and people are doing in mass mail these credit card offers. What's happening is hackers are just coming by, opening up your mailbox. When they see that, they're taking it, they're filling it out. They already have your name and your address. They're filling it out. If they can get your social, or they have your social, they can go ahead and apply for a credit card. It'll be under your name, under your credit card, under your social, and all they need to do is just return when the credit card is delivered to your home, the same mailbox, and they're just going in there grabbing that card, and then they're going out and using it. The only way that you will find out about this is if by chance the credit card company calls you, some kind of fraud alert, or when you run your credit report. So you really should consider running your credit report on a regular basis. I think people will recognize some of this. There are 3 credit bureaus. You can actually receive a free credit report from each one annually. So if you stagger these requests, every 4 months you technically can get a free credit report. You could also sign up for a credit monitoring service. ID Shield is a popular one. LifeLock is another one. I have tried and tinkered around with one called Credit Karma. Again, when I was doing a lot of this research, I wanted to try a couple of these sites. Credit Karma, that's C-R-E-D-I-T, Karma, K-A-R-M-A. It's a free service. I don't actually think they even needed your full social. I think if I remember correctly, you only had to enter the last 4 digits of your social, but you also had to enter some other things like your date of birth and your name. And what they did is they created a profile for me. It's all username and password protected, so it's all behind closed doors. And what it does is it shows you their calculations, as well as they are synced with one of the 3 credit bureaus. So they're not synced with all 3. Usually if you want to get information on all 3 through a credit monitoring service, you usually have to pay for that service. But I tried Credit Karma. I thought it was pretty good. It also had suggestions right in there of ways that you could increase your credit score. That's a pretty common question that we get. The challenge is the credit bureaus do not share with you how they calculate your score. So having access to something like Credit Karma, I think, just increases the chance that you can improve your score. Another thing that you can do is sign up to stop the credit card offers. I actually did this for both myself and my wife. It's called www.optoutprescreen.com. I also checked out the second one, but I didn't do that other one. The optoutprescreen.com I did probably maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I haven't noticed yet that there's a reduction in the credit card offers, but it told me that. It said it would take, I think, about 31 days for it to go through the system. But hopefully that should reduce those credit card offers, and that will hopefully cut down on some of the risk of identity theft. Because again, a lot of it's still happening by physically stealing things from people. Another thing that you should consider is a P.O. box, or also consider getting a mailbox that has a locking mechanism on it. The other thing, do not just throw away your credit card offers. You really need to rip them up, tear them up, and better yet, shred them if you can. Protecting the identity of your children. This was kind of a surprising one for me. Identity thieves or theft is about 51 times greater for children than adults. That's amazing to me. I guess, as I started going through this, it actually made sense because if a hacker can get your a child's Social Security and open up a credit account using that Social Security number, then think about that. They could potentially use that for, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 years. It all depends on when that child first goes and either applies for credit or runs a credit report, and then they find out that somebody's been using their credit already for the last 15 years. So it can last for a very long period of time. Hackers know this. Identity thieves know this. So that's why children are a prime culprit for, or a target audience for who they're trying to go after. There is a glitch in the system, and I actually read about this story. If a hacker finds out your Social Security or your kid's Social Security number, what they can do is they can go to a phone company and take out a phone, and for whatever reason, phone companies do run your credit report, and they will ask you for your social, your name, and your date of birth. They will submit that, even if it's for a minor. They will submit that to the credit bureaus, and when they submit it, the credit bureaus have a flaw because that submission or that request for a credit report, that actually is what creates your profile. So according to the credit bureau, they're looking to validate your social. Whatever you tell them for a name and your date of birth is, they're just going to take whatever came in as what it should be. They're not validating that. The only thing that they validate is Social Security numbers. So you got to be super careful with this. I think there is an incentive. I was actually reading, I haven't done this yet, but there's an incentive, and I think it's not a bad idea to teach kids early about credit. Now, I'll leave that up to you in terms of the age. They were starting to talk about a 13-year-old. It still felt like that's a little early to give a credit card to. But they said that you can go out and apply for a credit card that has a limit of $500 so that the damage is somewhat contained. And that would at least allow the child to build credit, because they can't go out and get a credit card on their own. So you would have to co-sign, and you would both share the credit card account with them. There would be some other benefits that you could teach them about credit, and it would get a credit profile created for them with the 3 credit bureaus, which I think is a pretty cool idea. Check your children's credit report. Here's one of the tips. Check your child's credit report. It's not actually that easy. You can't do it like we do online where you just request it. You actually have to submit in writing because it's a minor. I think it's a good idea. I haven't done it yet because of the extra inconvenience step where you have to write to them to actually request that, but it can be done. Also, this is standard, and I think it goes without saying, limit who you share your credit card, your child's social security number with. Most companies do not need to know, or a lot of companies do not need to know your social security number. I was always shocked when Comcast asked to know my social, and I thought, what for? I guess it's the same concept of the phone companies. They want to see how good of a customer you're going to be, but my sense is, hey, if I'm making my monthly payments, that should be good enough. So it might help if all of us start fighting back in terms of how often we're willing to give our credit card and put up a stink about it, because then they'll start to figure out that it's not acceptable and they'll find other ways to validate accounts, whatever it is that they're trying to do. I got one more poll for you here. Since the first one was nice to change it up a little. Here in the U.S., ATM fraud is up what % in the last 12 months? So again, in the last 12 months here in the U.S., ATM fraud is up what % do you think? Cool, we've got everybody, all of them have been checked off, so that's actually pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to close this. We've got 13% that said that there's a 10% increase. We got the winner here at 25%, or the highest percent said that we were going to, I'm sorry, I'm saying this poorly. So the first option was a 10% increase. 13% of people picked that one. The next one was a 25% increase, and 38% of people picked that. The next one was 50% increase. 25% of people picked that one, and the final one was 500%, and 25% of you chose that one. This one, you guys, the majority got wrong. The answer is actually 500%. So this is why I included this in this presentation. The ATM fraud is on the rise. If you see one of these ATMs, be very careful. I like to actually describe these as the ones that you can pick up and move, which there have been thieves that have actually tried to do that. If you can pick up and move that ATM, chances are there's a good chance that it's a private ATM, which is not in and by itself a bad thing, but it's not the bank's ATM. I actually went online and looked to see how easy it is to buy an ATM, and it is really easy. They charge anywhere from about $2,000 to $3,000 for the unit. Some of the more advanced ones were upwards of about $5,000, and they charge fees according to whether they have to come and put money in or whether the store owner has to put their money in. It's actually been a big source for money launderers who have dirty money that want to get that money into the system. I constantly keep thinking of the movie Breaking Bad. What do they do with that cash? So what corrupt store owners are doing is they're purchasing ATMs and they're using to put the cash into the ATM machine. They're actually using laundered money or dirty money to get it into the system. The other problem that we're seeing is that people on more of these private, although this problem is not exclusive to private ATM machines, there's a preference to use ATM machines at the banks, because then we know that they're the bank's ATM as opposed to potentially being a private ATM. What they're doing is they're putting covers on these ATMs. They're putting, well, actually I can show you, I think on the next screen. They're putting a false cover on these ATMs so that what you're looking at is actually not a real ATM, and they're just trying to capture your information. There might be a real ATM behind this, but the cover is fake, and they want to put on things like a loose pin pad so that it's not the real pin pad. They're putting something over it so that as you type it, it's kind of like the key logging malware software that tracks what you're typing. These are keypad trackers that they're putting on this. If you ever see something on the keypad that's flimsy or doesn't look right, or some kind of silicone film on top of it, you got to be very careful. You could have strangers lurking behind you that are just watching to see what pin you're entering. Many times they'll actually put a camera a little tiny camera. Now, most ATMs have a camera, but they're not being that discreet. Those are the ones that they want to have on there. But sometimes they're putting little pin cameras in here so that they can once again track whatever you're typing here, because getting your credit card numbers is actually not that difficult. You think how often we have it out and about, and we give it to restaurants, waitresses to go ring up our credit card. They've figured out ways to get access to our credit card numbers, and this is why they're starting to do things like putting biometrics on it, or the new card readers that you need to have now for some of these stores that when you run your credit card through. Another big thing that they're doing are putting skimmers on this. So what a skimmer does is it just reads your card numbers as you put it through. So again, if you ever see where you put your card in, if it's flimsy at all, again, don't use that ATM. This last one, the Lebanese loop, one of the things that they said is happening is people are putting something right into the slot that actually will hold your card so that it won't distribute the card to you after you put it in. And what they've done is people think that the machine ate their card, and after a minute or two they walk away and they say, well, it ate my card, there's nothing I can do about it, I'll call and get a new card. But it didn't really eat the card, it didn't go all the way in. There's something that's holding it just out of your reach, and then they come back and they have this tool that will allow them to release that little thing that was holding your card sort of in escrow so that they can pull the card out, and now they actually have your credit card. Needless to say, you got to be careful. So cover the keypad when you enter your PIN. I think I have these on here. I do. Never use an ATM that looks like it's been tampered with, and just be cautious if you're going to use a private ATM that looks like this. It'd be better if you use the ones that look like this that are on your bank's location. The final section is what to do if you become a victim of identity theft. The first thing I would do is check out identitytheft.gov to get started with their process. They have information worksheets, blank forms that you can utilize to be able to start the process of recovering your identity. It is a government program. It's actually the Federal Trade Commission, which is the nation's consumer protection agency. In the event that your credit card has been stolen, you need to contact your credit card provider, have them put a stop or cancel that card right away and issue a new one. I mean, we all use credit cards. We need the cards as quickly as possible. But have them stop or cancel the card that you can't find. I've actually seen commercials where some of the banks are offering that now, so you can go on with an app and lock that card that's lost, and if you find it, you can then go ahead and unlock. You should contact one of the 3 credit bureaus to request an initial fraud alert. You only need to call one of the bureaus because once they're notified, they automatically notify the other 2. You should consider placing a credit freeze on the account. This is not just in the event that you experience identity theft. This is also something that people should consider, placing a security freeze on their credit. If you don't plan on using your credit going forward, or even if you do but you don't plan on using it often, you can have freezes put on your credit, which I think is the most ironclad way to protect your credit, so that new credit cannot be taken out unknowingly, because anytime somebody applies for credit, it will come back that it's inaccessible because the account has been frozen. You can unfreeze it. It does cost money if you want to unfreeze it, but it still seems like a pretty good deal. I actually would consider that, especially if I had already purchased my home, I already had the credit cards that I wanted, and I didn't plan on using credit going forward. I would definitely give credit freezing some consideration. When you place an initial fraud alert with any of the credit bureaus, they will you're automatically entitled to a free credit report. You should take them up on that offer. You want to not only be able to track it today and sort of get calibrated, but you also want to request it again, even if it costs money, 3 months, 4 months down the road, to get the reports again from all 3 credit bureaus. because what you're doing is you're looking for new activity. You're looking to see if new credit has been applied for, if somebody's already stolen your identity. Consider identity or credit monitoring services. I already talked about this, something like ID Shield or LifeLock or Credit Karma. Again, the ones that you pay for are going to offer more bells and whistles than the free version like Credit Karma. Update your passwords for any impacted accounts and notify the credit bureaus in writing to dispute any fraudulent activity on your credit card. You want to have them remove any charges that are showing up on or accounts that you didn't really open. You want to have that removed. Unfortunately, sometimes it actually takes a police report and an affidavit from the FTC to actually have that removed, but you're going to have to take some time to work with them. This is not easy. This is the part that can be difficult, is to clear your name and to recover from the identity theft. I want to leave today with just a personal story. It's not super drastic, so I don't want to set expectations too high, but I did have an experience. I think it's important to share these experiences because it will bring greater awareness to what the current trends are in identity theft. The more we tell these stories, the greater our awareness will be, and awareness will hopefully help to limit our exposure. We can't fully insulate it because of things like what happened at Target, where it's somebody else's actions that resulted in our identity being stolen. But hey, there are some best practices that we should really try to stick with. So my family and I, this was last April, my wife and I decided to take our 2 girls down to Washington, D.C. We decided to drive. It's, I don't know, a 12-hour drive. We thought it was doable. So we got in the car and we headed down. I used my credit card for just about everything I possibly can. And going through Connecticut, we stopped for dinner, once I think for gas, and maybe once to pick up a coffee. And that's the only time that I used the credit card. Obviously, we came back from DC, and I probably did the same on the way back. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I was sitting here at the office, and I got a call from my credit card company fraud division, and they said that they just received a notice that I bought and paid $1,000 at a store in Sears was just run through my credit within the last hour on my credit card. And I was sitting here comfortably in my office in Danvers, Mass, and I knew that obviously that was not legit. So I told them so. Well, they were great to work with. Everything was fine. They didn't even charge me the $50 fee that they're allowed to charge me, but they credited my bank account within, I don't know, a day or two, so it wasn't very long. But to the best of my knowledge, I never found out how or what happened. But to the best of my knowledge, I do remember playing it through in my mind as to what possibly could have been the point when my identity had been stolen. We were at dinner, as I said, on the way down. The waitress was very nice, was asking us a lot of questions about where we were from and where we were going. And I remember that it took an unusually long time for her to run the bill. And in hindsight, and this happens most times, when you give the waitress or waiter your credit card, it's out of view. They go out back or they go around the corner and run your credit card. Well, this one took an unusual amount of time, maybe 3-4 minutes, so it got my attention. But she came back, she was pleasant, and we went on our way. And I believe, especially since we were in dinner in Connecticut, although it doesn't have to be Connecticut, we were at dinner in Connecticut, and that's where the scam took place. That's where they ran the $1,000 through Sears. So you know, it happens. It's out there. We just want to stay aware. That's the end of my prepared remarks. I do want to check with Amanda if any questions came through during the presentation.
Hi, Jamie. I just want to take a moment to let everybody that's on the call know about some of our upcoming webinars. So for June, it's on Thursday, which is June 29th, and it'll be at 10 o'clock, and it'll be about can you afford to retire? July, we have ABCs of trusts. Should you have a trust? and that'll be on Monday, July 31st, and then for August, we have what every beneficiary should know, so that's August 30th at 4. You can find our webinar calendar directly on our website, and you'll be able to register for any of our upcoming webinars through December. You will automatically receive a reminder email a day before the webinar begins, as well as an hour before. So if you'd like to get some of those on your calendar, we encourage everybody to join us for some of those. But as far as questions, Jamie, I do have a couple. Just want to let everyone know if you do have a question, please use the question box on your taskbar there and send it over. And if we don't get to it today, we'll certainly follow up with you to get you your answer. The first one is about freezing your credit. You had mentioned freezing. Can you just elaborate on exactly what that is and how to go about that?
Sure. Good question. I heard about it maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and so I don't think it's commonplace that a lot of people know about this. You can go to each of the 3 credit bureaus and just tell them that you're freezing it. I do not want credit to be I don't want anybody, including myself, to be able to apply for credit while I have my account frozen. You know, I can envision a time when we're going to be able to, where we'll have apps for all 3 credit bureaus, or maybe just one, and you can just freeze or unfreeze it. The only time you'd want to unfreeze it is when you're going to go buy a car and you're going to take out a car loan for it and they need to run your credit. Many times the car dealership can tell you, hey, we're going to run this through Equifax. So you can go log into Equifax and unfreeze your account. That doesn't exist yet in terms of the ease of doing this. You need to put in a request with them to tell them that you want to freeze it. It's state specific as to how much they charge. I looked and they actually charge $5 per credit bureau, so there's 3 of them, to freeze your credit. So for me, if I wanted to freeze my credit entirely with all 3 bureaus, so it's ironclad, nobody could take out new credit, including myself, and hackers and identity thieves, it would cost me $15. If I then went to go apply for a car loan, I would have to find out, again, Equifax. I'd have to go to Equifax, pay $5 to unfreeze it for this car dealership who's going to run my credit. So, you know, it's not super inconvenient, but it's also not as convenient as not having the freeze. So I think people are going to have to make their own decision. I think as soon as I get to a point where I don't need to refinance mortgages, I don't foresee college loans in the future. I'm maybe retired. I could definitely see a stage where I'd be looking to just go ahead and freeze my credit. And I think it is something that people that don't plan to use credit should give serious consideration.
Okay, we do have one more question. What do you think about credit monitoring services, for example, like LifeLock that you described earlier?
Yep. So, you know, I'm sort of neutral on them. I've looked at some of the things that they do. I mean, they sort of automate some of the things that we can do on our own, like putting an initial fraud alert on each of your credit with each credit bureau. They sort of automate that stuff, so that's sort of a nice feature. There are some other things that I just wouldn't even know where to begin. When I started researching protecting your child's credit, I actually found one group, and it actually is on their ID Shield, that will also, if a parent signs up for their credit monitoring, they will, I think, for like an extra $5 a month, they'll include your child's Social Security and credit monitoring, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, they're coming out with some extra bells and whistles. When they first started, I wasn't entirely sold. I do remember the LifeLock CEO. I used to see him on TV, and he had his Social Security number, and he sort of taunted people to try to crack his credit and make him a victim of identity theft. And he stopped doing those commercials when they did. So they actually hacked his system. So, you know, I just think it's true that there's only so much that we can do. Best practices is the best defense here, and awareness. They don't hurt. It's the only hurt part is you have to pay a monthly subscription or a monthly fee for them. So that they're not bad, and they do offer some additional bells and whistles that I think are hard for you and I to duplicate. Any other questions, Amanda?
Yeah, we do. So we do have a question. It says, will restaurants ever use a European system where they bring the credit card machine to your table? And I know I've personally seen these kinds of machines at chain restaurants like Uno's and things like that. Do you think that more restaurants may be adopting this kind of system to avoid this?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we are seeing it, as you said. You know, the more chain-like, the more likely you are to see it. Kids love it, and it's also an additional revenue stream for them, because I think they charge $2 or something like that if your kid's going to play with it while you play a game on it while you're having dinner or something like that. So I think you are going to see a growing trend on that. I am now uncomfortable when I don't have my credit card in front of me. It makes me uncomfortable just because of my experience and what I've gone through. And you know, I think the more of us that request it or tell them that we're uncomfortable with it, it's going to feel weird at first. But as time goes on, I think only if we request these things will it actually happen. So it's, I think it's going to be a growing trend going forward.
Going back to freezing your account, can you use your credit card for small items ordered monthly, for instance, Comcast?
Yeah, good question. So and that's an important distinction. When you freeze your credit, it's only freezing your ability to apply for new credit accounts. It is not freezing your existing credits that you already have in existence. So for example, I have my credit card that I already own. I have a mortgage that I already have. If I go and freeze my credit and I want to go buy a car, I cannot get a new car loan. But freezing my credit will not impact my existing mortgage or my existing credit cards. Good question.
And I think that's it for today.
Excellent. So this wraps up our presentation on identity theft. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to our office at 978-624-3000. We're always happy to help. And thank you again for participating today. Be well.